ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Houghton Heroes Fantasy Football League videocast. I'm your host, Dan, and we are ready to start week one here. This video is coming out on Saturdays, meaning tomorrow is the first real batch of games. We're going to get into the Thursday night game a little bit later. We have the previews of who is playing who for week one. We also have some stats to come out. Like I said last time, the fellas at Sacko Cream dove into some stats during the off-season to give us a little bit more in-depth look at the league. We'll bring some of those out too, and we'll discuss the decision to not change the divisions after all by the commissioner. And I do mean one commissioner. I don't mean to say co-commissioners, because I believe that Kavi did this by himself, and that's going to kick off our first segment here. We're going to discuss the divisions and how they didn't change. But first off, in last week video, I said that there would be a change in the divisions, and there was going to be, to the best of my knowledge. And apparently at the very last second, Kavi decided to not change the divisions for some unknown reason. He and Kyle were at the draft together out in New York. Maybe this had something to do with Kyle maybe not wanting to go to a stronger division. Didn't think he might be able to handle it. I would agree with this. I don't think he would have been able to make the playoffs in the division that he would have been in. I think he whined to Kavi a little bit, and Kavi obviously listened, decided to not change the divisions, and so they are as they have been the previous couple seasons. Kyle returns to the division with myself, Andrew, Benda, Simon, and Jake, and Holly returns with her division with Steve, who drafts her team every year. We all know this. Kavi, Drew, and Carl. So going into week one, this is something that kind of I found astonishing and was going to help everyone in the league this year during their week one matchup. But from the folks at Sacko Cream, they have found that teams starting 1-0 only have a 50% chance of making the playoffs. Everyone thinks that you need to get off to a running start in the league to make the playoffs. You know, you gotta beat your first opponent, start on the right foot, but this is only halfway true. Of course, these statistics are excluding Claire's team of 2011 from when she really didn't update her team. So 7 out of 14 teams that won their opening game of the year ended up making the playoffs. And likewise, if you started 0-1, you had a 4-15 chance of making the playoffs. That boils down to 26.7%. The only 4 teams in league history to make the playoffs after losing their first game was Steve and Simon. Both did it in 2011, and myself, I did it both in 2012 and last year in 2013. So yes, it doesn't exactly help you to win your first game, but you definitely have a better chance of making the playoffs if you don't. Statistics don't lie. Thank you to everyone at Sacko Cream. Now let's switch gears and go to the message boards. Lately there's been a lot of talk about the Sacko Rules and what his punishments should be. Kavi states that there were no rules. We haven't talked about this at all. However, but if we take a jog back to the message boards of last year's draft, we can find many sanctions that were laid out before him, and let's take a chance and do that right now. Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Sorry, I was just indulging in some Sherlock Holmes. I'm sure you have had the chance in your day. From what I have heard, you are looking for the Sacko Rules of 2013. So let me just pull those out for you. They're somewhere behind me, but I do remember them. Of course, the first rule for the Sacko was supposed to be the league picks his name and a picture for his team this year. Now, obviously, this has been done, but there are another 5 rules that he must complete. The second one, the Sacko must have a Sacko shirt that he must always bring with him when he's going out with one or more league members, and must put it on request of one of the league members. The Sacko can only remove this shirt if the majority of the league members present permit this, even if the shirt is soiled throughout the night. If the Sacko does not have a shirt present, upon request he or she must immediately purchase a round of drinks for all league members present. If asked by anyone what Sacko means, the Sacko must respond, "I am the Sacko, the lowest of the low. I am the shit beneath your shoe, and I am the one who smells of poo." The third rule that the Sacko must complete, the Sacko is not allowed to shave his or her pubes for an entire month, starting the day the Sacko is determined. Obviously, we have known who the Sacko was for quite some time, Jake, and so obviously at the point of this video coming out, you must now stop shaving your pubes, and we are sorry to your lovely bride that this must happen. The fourth rule that the Sacko must abide to is the Sacko must write an apology letter to a player that was on their team apologizing for disgracing them and having them on your team which performed so poorly. The fifth rule that the Sacko must abide to is all league members must change the Sacko's name in their phone to Sacko. Now, that is not necessarily a rule that Jake must follow. We must follow that, but we must all update his contact information to Sacko. And last but definitely not least, the Sacko must write a letter to the Daily Mining Gazette informing everyone in Houghton that they are indeed the Sacko, also explaining what the term means. Now, only Drew and myself are in Houghton still, but Jake, we are expecting your letter. We are picking up our Daily Mining Gazettes every day, and we expect to see that letter in no time. Now, thank you for coming. I need to get back to my book now. Enjoy week 1 of the league. So there you have it. Those are the Sacko punishments for this season. Any Sacko punishments suggested from now on are applying to the new Sacko determined after this year. Now we've got some questions that were submitted on the Houghton Heroes Fantasy Football League group. And first off, Holly asks why Jake picked a tight end for his first round pick, 9th overall. It happened to be Jimmy Graham. Personally, I can understand why he made this pick. I would never have done it in the first round. There's a lot of more impactful players you could get that score more points than Jimmy Graham in the first round. He had the 9th and 11th. I would have had no problem with him taking him in the 11th overall pick. Regardless, he has him anyway. Jimmy Graham obviously gives you a leg up every week. There's no tight end in the game that can match him. Even if he's going up against Gronk or Julius Thomas, you expect Jimmy Graham to have the better week. He's the best receiving option on a throw first team in New Orleans. He's a great player. He's going to be the best tight end. He gives you an advantage every week. However, with your first overall pick, the 8th overall, I would not have went a tight end, especially in our league when everyone just kind of goes with who they like. I don't think anyone would have picked a tight end in the first 2 rounds. Jake, I think he would have been safe. He probably wouldn't have been around for your 3rd and 4th round picks, but to sacrifice a RB1 for a tight end who's basically a glorified wide receiver one, I think that it was kind of a stretch. We'll see how it plays out. Holly, that's what I think of that. Second, Steve asked what I thought of the Packers and Seahawks game, week 1 on Thursday night. I thought the Seahawks were really good. Everyone was expecting the Seahawks to win, I think. Their defense looked great against a passing offense like that in Green Bay. They pretty much shut them down. Obviously, Seattle was at home. That's a big boost. Percy Harvin had a good game. I think that he's going to be middle of the road unless he scores a touchdown. I think you're going to get a lot of rushing yards from him. Russell Wilson performed really well. Kyle has him on his team, got 17 fantasy points. I think he got a little bit lucky. The secondary for the Packers is not very good. Marshawn Lynch with 2 touchdowns as well. I think this might actually be the best game that we see from Marshawn Lynch. He got 24 fantasy points this week, and I think that this is going to be the ceiling for him. There's a lot of stats out there about his usage, how old he is, etc., etc. I'd be a little worried if I were Drew. Yeah, he had a good week 1, but I think this is the best he's going to get. Eddie Lacy went out with a concussion. He only got 3 fantasy points. Sucks for Kavi for his first rounder to kind of fizzle out like that. It's the end of the week now. It looks like he's going to be ready for week 2. He's going through the protocol. I think Eddie Lacy is going to be great. There's not every day you face the best defense at home like they did in Seattle. I think he's going to be fine. Look for the Green Bay Packers to actually perform pretty well the rest of the season. Randall Cobb got a touchdown. I think he's going to be better than Jordy Nelson this year, so we'll see how that goes. But that's my take on the Thursday night game. Let's dive into the matchups that we have for week 1. So starting off week 1, we have myself, the Broncos D, and the Sankey Legs playing off against division foe Kyle Krim and the Viking Slayer. It's 10-7 right now. Kyle has Russell Wilson with 17 fantasy points. I have Steven Hauschka, my kicker, with 10. The projections are going Kyle's way. However, I really don't see it going that way at all. I think Matt Ryan, for myself, has a big game against New Orleans. It's a rivalry game. It's starting off the season fresh. He's got both his wide receivers healthy. The O-line is kind of revamped. They had an injury, but it's better than last year. They're at home. I think Matt Ryan throws for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Julio Jones is also on my team. I think he has a touchdown, scores over 10 points. I like my running back core a lot better than I like Kyle's. Although he does have Jamal Charles, he is starting Giovanni Bernard against the Baltimore defense on the road. I don't see Giovanni having a huge game here. He's going to perform like an RB2. But he's paired up against Monte Ball from my team, and I think Monte Ball is going to do exactly what Noshan Moreno did last year in being a top 10 running back. Kyle's wide receivers, Fitz, Dez, and Andre Brown, are pretty good. He's stacked in that department. He got Larry Fitzgerald late in the draft. I have Julio Jones and Reggie Wayne. Julio's going to have a big game. Reggie Wayne is back, and he's healthy. He's Andrew Luck's best wide receiving option. I think he's going to get about 8 points here. Zach Ertz and Dennis Pitta for tight ends, I think that's a wash, and the defenses, I think, is a wash too. I think my running backs come through for me, and Reggie Wayne and Julio Jones power me to the win with Matt Ryan. I think I defeat Kyle in week 1, being my first week 1 win, starting off the season on the right foot. Next, we have the Marquise Coleslaw Andrew Blakes against the Peyton Yoass Green Holly. First of all, Holly, change your goddamn name, okay? Everyone in the league has done it, and you were the one who was asking for an extension while you were drafting at McDonald's to change your name. It's been almost a week later. Change your goddamn name. Also, I see you losing this game. Drew has a very strong team after the draft, the way it looks like. Phillip Rivers, I think, is his only weak spot. Lynch got him 24 points, and the Seahawks D got him 10. It's 34-0 right now. I don't think Andre Johnson is going to do much for you, Holly. Zach Stacy isn't even the best running back on his team. He had a terrible preseason. BJ Cunningham, who I drafted, has been looking better than him the entire preseason. I don't even think that he finishes the week as the starter. Drew's team, he's got a great team. That's all I'm going to say. Holly, change your name. Drew's going to win this one. He's 0-12 in his career in the first 4 games, and I think he breaks that record on his way to making the playoffs this year. Drew over Holly. The next matchup we have is Kyle and Dan's farm team of Jake facing off against the best team name in the league, in my opinion, Lamborghini Percy of Simon Johnson. It's currently 17-0 in favor of Simon, and I think he's going to win this one. But last week, the guys at Sacko Cream gave us some insight that there were 3 teams that started the season undefeated. Jake was surprisingly one of them, but what they also didn't tell us is that after Jake's 3 opening wins, he's gone on every season to have a losing streak of at least 2, and I think he repeats the trend in that, but I don't think he's going to win. I think Simon is going to keep the lead that he has right now and give Jake his first opening season loss. I think what's going to cost Jake right now is he's starting Alex Smith at quarterback against Matthew Stafford for Simon. I think Stafford's going to have a huge season this year. He's going to overtake Alex Smith this week, and I think the middle of Jake's lineup is going to cost him. His RB1 is Frank Gore. Now, their offense has been having a lot of trouble in the offseason. I don't think they're just going to pick it up and start running. Frank Gore is the #1 running back. He's always a good bet to get a touchdown, but he's also starting Pierre Thomas and Torrey Smith in his running back 2 and flex positions. Now, this is going to cost him hugely. Pierre Thomas is going up against CJ Spiller. The Bears defense is not that good. Remember last year they were terrible against both the pass and the run. I think Spiller gets into the end zone this week. And Percy Harvin already started the flex with 9 points. I don't think Torrey Smith touches that this week. Although Jake's #1 pick, Jimmy Graham, is starting against Jason Witten for Dallas, I think that Simon comes through and gets his first win of the season. Also in week 1 action, we have Steve against Carl, the Haywood Jabronis against the Double Stuffed and Poppin' Molly. I said that Simon's team name was the best. It was really hard to pick between his and Carl's, but I do believe that Simon's is the best. Sorry, Carl. But going into week 1, Steve and Carl have faced off 3 times, and Carl is 2-1 in week 1 action. And also, Carl is 5-1 against Steve, and I think that he's going to move that to 3-1 in week 1 and 6-1 against Steve. The matchup right now is 13-11 in favor of Steve, but Aaron Rodgers only got him 9 points and 4 from Mason Crosby. The 11 came from Randall for Carl, and I think that will power him to the win. He's got Peyton Manning, Shane Vereen, Randall Cobb, Roddy White, and Rob Gronkowski. I think all these players show up big for him. Yes, Steve has LaShawn McCoy, but his quarterback and Aaron Rodgers did not perform well at all. He's got Antonio Gates, an old over-the-hill tight end, playing for him. Victor Cruz is his wide receiver 1. Yes, he's the best option on that team, but I think that their offense is going to stink again this year. And Trent Richardson at the flex, what are you doing? You should have learned last year that he's not going to do jack in Indianapolis, and I think he's going to be a huge dud Sunday Night Football against Denver. I think Carl wins this one, moving to 6-1 against Steve lifetime. And finally, we have the Commissioner Kavi facing off against Andrew Benda, the I'm Your Luckleberry versus Hot Patooey. Now, this is an interesting matchup because apparently Benda is off backpacking till late September and has appointed Kavi his co-manager of his team until he gets back. Now, this is interesting because they do happen to be facing each other in week 1. Now, Kavi says he'll do the honorable thing and base his lineup off his rankings that he trusts. I think we should keep an eye on this. Obviously, Kavi has been known to make some lone wolf decisions with the divisions and all this kind of thing. So let's watch Andrew Benda's lineup through the next couple weeks with a little bit of skepticism. We'll see if he makes any weird trades or pickups or leaves some people out because of quote-unquote bad matchups. But let's just dive into the week 1 matchup here. Eddie Lacy only gave Kavi 4 points. At the RB1, his first round pick, I think this is going to cost him, and I think Andrew Benda, who actually has a pretty strong lineup, is going to beat Kavi for the first time in week 1 history. He's starting Bishop Sankey, Andrew is, and I would advise against this because he's not even the starting running back on his team. The starting running back is Sean Green. Arian Foster is his RB1. I think that's a good play. Just watch out for some injuries. But other than that, his lineup looks pretty solid. Le'Veon Bell as an RB2 for Kavi is kind of a ho-hum play. He's starting Ryan Matthews in the flex. I think that's a good flex. But his wide receiver 1 is Alshon Jeffrey. I don't think Alshon's going to have as big of a year as he did last year. Greg Olsen as his tight end won't do much because Cam has busted ribs. I think this costs him. I think Andrew wins week 1. Kavi starting for the first time this season out with a loss. And that wraps up our week 1 video cast. I hope everyone enjoys having football back. Fantasy season is alive and well again. We'll check back with you next week to see how all the games went and preview week 2.